Well, hello and welcome to the review of India against Pakistan. You'll notice a slight difference today. I am the one who is introducing the session because our friend here, Zahid, probably needs a bit more time to recover because he had the fortune, or should I say misfortune, of having to go live to, to watch the mauling of a decade. I've got Zahid with me. Zahid, I don't know where to start, but I guess I am very curious to know at what point did you leave the match?
Specifically, I think it was just before the halfway stage. I think we left over the ninth, after the ninth over of the Indian innings, when it was pretty much a foregone conclusion. To answer the question, honestly, uh, probably the one match I wasn't even like planning to go, but things worked out and managed to get hold of some tickets. So I thought might as well see how it is. By the time we actually got in, slightly late to the ground, Pakistan were two down, almost three down from the roars, but I think there was one overturned review, one of many overturned reviews. So once I got in, I was at one point I was just glad that Pakistan like got to 50 because I thought there might be like a UAE performance where they'll get rolled over for 50 something. Um, but I mean, pretty much throughout the innings, there was not a single, you know, um, sniff as well, where you thought Pakistan might have a go. And I mean, the quality in the sides is so different. Not in just terms of just quality, intent, approach, um, and all the things that we discussed in the previous episode about how, despite this new intent for Pakistan cricket, and it's probably still work in progress and very raw, and probably, in my opinion, still better than what we had um, with some other players, despite what other people might say. Uh, I mean, it was just, yeah, from a purely cricketing professional point of view, it was a pretty embarrassing performance. But yeah, so it's a long way to answer your question. But as you can see from my demeanor, that yeah, it was a pretty sad day for a Pakistani cricket fan, purely on a sporting cricketing basis, nothing else.
Yeah, this is the first game that I actually sat and watched with Minha, and I think Minha was more excited than I was, and she couldn't. Obviously, she used to ask me, as every non-cricket fan. Well, so for everyone who doesn't know, Minha is my daughter, who's 4 years old. But the classic question, "Who's winning?" That every cricket fan hates, right? But obviously, with a 4-year-old, I had to answer candidly, and I said India. And then she would ask me 2 balls later, "Who's winning now?" And then I said, and then she, but when is Pakistan gonna win? And I'm like, I'm
Maybe
not
in a few
sure it'll
years.
be in the next couple of years. I mean, I think you'll be waiting a long time for that one. But anyways, look, I think jokes aside, let's go into the game. There's a lot to unpick, but equally there's also not a lot to say, right? Because if I had to summarize in one line what happened, there is absolutely no comparison when it comes to quality. Okay, we can talk a lot, and we should, about the toss, and the fact that we'll get on to the non-shaking of hands at the toss a bit later. But first, we talk about the match itself. Look, the toss, a shocking decision to bat first when you have the record right in front of you of the team chasing going on to win, and especially given that you are notorious for not knowing what a good score is. And it's actually quite tough to do, in fairness. But
Yeah.
still, right, you're not good at setting a score. And then you were going to do it when you know you're playing with spinners. The conditions will be the same, except there might be more dew in later on. So, I mean, it's a no-brainer to win the ball and to win the toss and bowl first. I mean, it's an absolute no-brainer. But having said that, for anyone who's wondering where I'm going with this, I'm still going to just say very categorically the result would have been no different. It would have been absolutely no different. The only difference would have been for fans like Zahid, who went to the ground, may have had more of a contest for a longer duration of time before it would become overwhelmingly obvious who's going to turn up
Yeah.
trumps and win. But that's so. Let's start there. I mean, wasn't it shocking? I mean, like, what reason could it have been that would have possessed Pakistan to have won the toss and batted first?
I think it's pretty simple. It's just the Tri Series in Sharjah. That's really it.
But it's Sharjah.
Where
Sharjah is a completely different kettle of fish.
irrelevant,
Yeah.
irrelevant for Pakistan cricket. And maybe the specter of the last T20 World Cup game where they couldn't chase 120.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Like,
That
oh,
that
now we've
really.
got 128, and now we've got better than they. I mean, you tell me. You tell me.
Um, but
Uh,
I genuinely think it's just that, and for some reason maybe thought it's a 1 day game, judging by some of the batting. It probably was a 1 day game in their minds where they thought, yeah, the pitch is going to dry out in the second innings. So that
but
really is
look,
the only logical
20
sense.
overs is a long time for that to happen. But yes, but you're so right because I mean, like we have to get
And it
over
was
that
really
mark.
humid. It was really humid. I mean, it's so
Really, okay,
obvious that
Dew would have played it.
there's going to be dew, and I know they have this spray thing and whatever, but worst case it would be the same as batting first, and anything else would be worse with the dew. So it didn't really make sense, to be honest. And like I said, especially given we're so notoriously bad at knowing what a good score is, I don't think anything less than 304 would have been enough anyway with the way India batted.
But yeah,
And again, at the end of the day, I think similar to the Champions Trophy game in a way, like the fact that India won with 4 overs to spare was a bit flattering for Pakistan. It could have been over in 10, 12 overs if they really wanted it to be honest.
my only thought process, my only thought that they would have had in making this decision is they would have said, "Oh, India are without Rohit and Kohli. The chase master Virat Kohli isn't playing. So maybe there's an underbelly in that Indian batting lineup. Maybe they're a bit inexperienced. So let's put them under pressure by having them chase because actually, on paper, their batting is more inexperienced than their bowling, which is true. But India's batting was more inexperienced when you look at the number of internationals played compared to that bowling lineup. And I think Pakistan were scared of having to chase and face that strangle of spin, the choke of spin that India apply. I think someone forgot to tell them that by batting first, they don't escape that obstacle. They just have to do that obstacle first before everything else, which is in many ways they're as bad, if not worse, because it doesn't allow you to get in the game. But look, that's the only thing I can think of. But look, let's be honest here. The IPL, in terms of quality, in terms of pressure, I mean, you've got people who are IPL winning captains answerable to stakeholders, is far superior to international irrelevant tri-series that Pakistan happens to play, right? So India have a very experienced batting lineup. In T20 cricket, more than any other form of cricket, franchise cricket, or at least good quality franchise cricket, counts. PSL, I say good quality franchise cricket for a reason, but so that should have been immediate. I'm surprised Mike Hessen bought into that. Like, I cannot believe it. I actually honestly think Mike Hessen may have asked Salman Aga, and I think everybody just felt scared having to chase. And I don't know, but it was a rubbish decision. India would have bowled first as well. Let's get over that. Let's move on. But let's start with the match itself, right? So you came in and you missed the absolute dolly, the Sam Ayub. I am really, really getting to my knees when it comes to the patience running out, right? With Sam Ayub. I mean, that was the most harmless of deliveries. He's got two gold. I mean, this is effectively a golden duck. I know it doesn't technically count as one, but it is, right? The second in a row, right? He's got like what, three ducks in like the last 5 games. Like, the double century in the 2 centuries in South Africa a long time ago feels like a lifetime ago, right? And now you need to ask yourself, right? I mean, yes, there's talent, but we've heard that so many times before, right? Umar Akmal is the first name that comes to mind. But at what point does one pull the trigger and say, you know what, Sam, you had enough chances, but it's just not going to work? My hunch is the issue is not so much Sam, it's the fact that we don't have any replacements for Sam. So there's a complacency that creeps in.
Yeah, and the bowling, which in typical
And the
Pakistan
bowling.
fashion, it's
But it's funny.
we're playing
We
for his
said
opposite swing.
We need him as a batter, not as a bowler. But yeah,
I think that's the biggest challenge we've got. Look, I mean, yeah, the wickets fell early. Um, and maybe, on paper, you would have said, okay, after 6 overs, 40 for 42 for two, with Bumrah having bowled three of those six, you would probably would have taken that at the toss because you're like, okay, fine, Bumrah's bowled his majority of his quota, and then you'll have the others coming in, and you can knock them around. Knock them around.
well, let's see.
Um, but in typical Pakistan fashion, I knew, and there were a couple of people that said the same thing. I was like, there will be a passage where because they don't know what the right score is, they'll panic, and then I think the seventh and the eighth over were really quiet, and then you knew that something was going to happen, right? Some silly shots are going to be played, and there'll be a flurry of wickets, and exactly that's what happened under pressure. And again, the same thing like I mentioned in the previous episode, right? I mean, the wickets were really ugly. You look at Mohammad Haris. I mean, he played that
It
one
was
innings
terrible.
against Oman. Ticked his box. Looked awful. Hassan Nawaz, same thing. I think he got dropped the previous ball, and then the next ball did the same thing and got out. And Salman Ali, I don't even want to get into his batting. It was
And even for
absolutely
that matter, I
horrible.
would even put Fakhar Zaman in that category. For someone as
Yeah,
experienced
exactly.
as him to come down the wicket and so outside the line of leg stump, knowing that Axar Patel is bowling across you, and he's probably going to bowl it a bit wide. It's such a, you know, it's a common mistake for an inexperienced player, but not for a clutch player that Fakhar claims. Well, he doesn't claim to be, but many of Fakhar's fans claim him to be, and in many cases he has shown it. It's a pity it's so inconsistent. But I mean, that is such a rookie error. Now, look, I've come to the conclusion.
And Saib Zafran also for all.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, Saizal Khan played some glorious shots, right? But though, and
I mean,
look,
two sixes of Bumrah, yeah, but
yeah,
after
the
that,
six of
40
Bumrah,
or 44
but what?
is.
Yeah, that was a terrible way of getting out. I think got the toe end of the bat. Look, ultimately, I have reached the conclusion that look, now everyone is gonna come out. All the Babar, Rizwan fans will come out and be like, "Yo, is this what you wanted?" And the answer is, unfortunately, look, the intent is there. My issue is there is a difference between low percentage shots and high percentage shots. And I guarantee if I told the Pakistan batters that, they'd be like, what's the difference? I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know. I know two gears. One is to block, the other is to hit. There is zero application and zero knowledge of, okay, I am hitting across the line against the best fast bowler, not just in the world, but in the debate for of all time. And you think of your second ball, you can hoik him and pull off some absolute stunner of a shot and try and grab headlines when it's such a low percentage shot. Like on the scale of 0 to 10, that probably has like a 1 in 10 chance of succeeding of your second ball. Like if it's your 20th ball, it's a different story. But even then, it's not that high, right? It's a less than 50% percentage. It's similar to the Sam Ayub no look shot, right? I mean, it looks great, but there is like such a limited percentage of success there that's just not worth it. But Pakistan players, even when Salman Ali Aga decides to hoik the ball when the ball is outside off stump, sweep it for six when it's clearly going another way is ridiculous, right? There is no way. Even if you're 3 of 11, do you really think that's going to go for six? Do you really think? Like, it just feels like they need to get, they have a get out of jail card and they just have to cash in. Like, there's no question. No one will mind it, and just give up, right? And the other, so it's shot selection. But I actually think it's bigger than just shot selection. I just think they don't have the repertoire of shots. I think they only have, like Salman Ali Aga could have easily played that inside out over extra cover, right? You number of times Sky did that, number of times Shubman Gill did that. Not once did we attempt that shot against the spinners.
We did.
Our own
I think we did China freely.
was it shy over extra cover?
Yeah, or was it extra cover? Yeah, he did. Or maybe it was of Pandya. I think it was of Pandya. No,
I
no.
don't think against spin. Maybe I'm wrong, but okay. But anyway, Shine of Feet should not be the
Anyways,
gold standard of Pakistan batting. But
I
yes,
know,
I
I know,
get the
I know.
point. But the point. But it's usually across the line. The only attacking they were doing against spinners was across the line or going down the wicket, and also not playing with a straight bat, but a cross-batted shot like this, not straight, but like that. Right? Fakhar
I think
Zaman
Fahim
also.
Ashraf hit a boundary. Yeah, I think Fahim Ashraf hit a boundary
Yes,
over
they must
extra.
have did
Yeah,
hit a boundary. Yes.
yeah.
Again, numbers 8. Okay. But like to think that like you have made it to the international level and you can't hit spinners, okay, maybe not 360, but at least 180 degrees, right? I mean, there's only one shot and you know you're playing against quality spin. Like, what's the plan? Like, when you came in, what did you think you would do, right? That's what I don't understand. I think what they came out, think, look, we're just going to keep it simple. We're just going to just try and hit every ball and just hope it comes off. That's just not going to work, right? You think that's what England do, right? When you look at them, but look at their shots. Their shots are not always, but 70%, especially when they're getting in new to the crease, they are percentage shots. They're proper cricketing shots up, over the infield or whatever, But Pakistan just doesn't have that, right?
I mean, yeah.
Um,
You saw Abhishek Sharma. He came in first ball, walked down the track to
and like,
Shine. But it was percentage cricket, right? And a couple of shots hit in the air, hit in the gap. He knew even if he mistimed it, it'll be over the fielder for two. It just happened he timed it so well that they went for sixes and fours. But it's understanding the situation. But again, it also comes down to execution, right? I think the amount of times the Pakistani batters tried a reverse sweep or reverse lap and it never paid off. I think Famous shows he got out trying to play the reverse sweep.
yeah, which I think is ridiculous, right?
Yeah, um, they all tried it. It never really paid off. And I think the amount of times I think was it Tilak Verma like first ball of Nawaz's spell reverse swept him before. I
Yeah,
mean,
but the thing is, when they reverse sweep knowing that it's a shot that works for them.
yeah,
We do it because there's no other option. We're like, okay, nothing's working. Let me just try my hand at this, which has to be one of the toughest shots, right? I mean,
yeah,
like, let's be honest. Like, every batter knows what their strengths are when it comes to what are their areas that they hit against different types of bowling. If I'm not getting the balls in those areas, then where are my go-to shots to nudge the ball around for quick singles and twos? This is the other component of intent. It seems that they missed the lesson, right? In the whole lesson of intent, they missed the class that was about strike rotation again, right? Again, I mean, 63 dot balls in a 120 ball innings is criminal, right? You need to know, look, these are my shots against the spinners that I'm going to back myself to play. Okay. If I don't get them in my arc, or if I don't get them in these areas, these are my shots that I will back myself to play when it comes to nudging the ball around to rotate strike. You need to have that list. I know it sounds simple. Oh, yeah, just nudge a ball. But as you can see, it's not that simple. Clearly, Pakistan makes everything seem so Herculeanly difficult. But like, you need to know, okay, against Kuldeep Yadav, if I'm getting into a bit of a rut, what's my way to get off strike? Is it a simple nudge? Just go across the line, take a bit of a risk, but make sure you don't miss it. But and just nudge the ball on the leg side for a quick single. Is it going straight? What happened was they were just hitting with hard hands, going straight to fielders,
yeah.
and going straight to fielders very quickly. You can play with soft hands and take a single. But see, it's that level of added game awareness that is so lacking. And it's one of those things, I think Sanjay Manjrekar put it very well, even though I'm not the biggest fan of his commentary, but I think he put it very well when he said, in Pakistan, when they come to the international stage, they come in as work in progress, right? They don't come in as a finished product or even an 80% finished product. They come in at 50%, right? And I think that is probably in my the biggest disappointment. Look, I have no issues losing, right? I mean, lose all you like. You lose to a better team. India is on course to be the world's most dominant side, right? There's no shame in losing. Okay, forget the India-Pakistan rivalry. There's no shame in losing to such a great team, right? But it's the manner, right? There is no way. And I think you made the point, right? Like, there's no plan. If you know
Yeah.
you're playing 12 overs of spin, or at least 12 overs, more like 14, yeah, it ended up being 13 overs of spin, but whatever, at least 12 overs of spin, you should have earmarked who you're going to attack, right? It had to be Hardik Pandya. Like, it just had to be, right? So, and when you've dropped Babar and Rizwan on the basis of low strike rates, please open the strike rates of every player in that team. Give me like 5 runs and over at 10, at the 10 over mark, for God's sake. You should have gone and said, look, you know what? We're going to be strangled against spin. We are going to go all out against Pandya. Bumrah is a bit tougher, so we're going to go all out against Pandya. And you have to back yourself against a Varun Chakravarti or somebody, right? You just got to do it. But Pakistan get friends, to use Mike Hesselwood, get frenzied when they rely a lot on Fakhar Zaman for that. Firstly, I think Fakhar Zaman cannot bat at 4. I think you are stifling him by batting at 4 because he comes in when Pakistan is 6 for 2. It's a completely different game. Right? You either get him to open or he comes in at 1 down, not lower than that, because he then has to absorb a lot of pressure, right? And he can't play his natural game. He much rather come in, okay, fine, 10 for 1 rather than 5 for 2. You know what I mean? Like 2 wickets down just means that he has to then make it count, which means he will take a bit longer. You need to give him a free rein, right? I know you're backing Muhammad Haris, but come on, like a 63 against Oman, for God's sake. Yeah.
After failures for 6, 7 innings in a row. Look, I mean, there's not much more to add to what you've said. Specifics as well. Some of the shot selection again, we discussed that. But also, again, it's when you're watching the game live, you also get a different perspective because you get the full view of the field and all that. I was surprised when Pakistan actually, after the power play, India actually they kept with 4 inside the circle, including it with the slip and 3 others. I thought which meant that there were still gaps for singles, right? It wasn't like there was a ring of 6 inside and you didn't have gaps to get a single and you're forcing them to it.
Interesting.
Yeah. It was literally there for them to dive it down. And it's after 6 overs, you were 40 out for 2. And after I think 8, 9 overs, you scored like 6 runs and then lost 2 wickets eventually. It just seemed like maybe India as well, they knew that these guys are so hopeless that even if we give them the option, they're not going to do anything. And even the singles were very laborious. There were a couple of close, not catches, but they were in the air just past the fielder a couple of times. There's a couple of shots that went past the bowler in the air. 1 or 2 inside edges that went for singles. So again, it was, even the singles that were pretty hopeless. And again, look, it comes down to, and the 120 at the end was a flattering score because of what China did at the end. Otherwise, you're probably going to be out for 95, 96, something like that. And a couple of free hits or whatever kind of worked. But overall, I mean, execution-wise, and you can see, again, it's also, I don't know what it's the intent or the skill. When Pakistan were batting, even the boundaries, they were just about going for 4 or they were stopping for 2s and 3s.
They're literally just crawling their way to the ground. I mean, like, and the commentator was like, oh, yeah, it's a slow outfit. I mean, exactly. Like, well, not really.
Exactly.
But yeah,
I mean, the sound as well. The sound of the bat is completely different. So it's there's not much more that I can say.
But there is one thing I want to say, right? And this is to address the question that everybody wants to know. Not that we have the magic ball, but look, ultimately, it's does Pakistan go back to Babar and Rizwan? Do Pakistan go back to Babar and Rizwan? I'm going to be very clear here. The answer is no, right? And the reason the answer is no is because it's a lot bigger than what you're going through at the moment. This is about setting a long-term precedent. If you are going to fall into the age-old trap in Pakistan cricket, which is to always go back to your seniors every time there's a problematic campaign, it disincentivizes the seniors from actually adapting their game. Because what happens is, and Babar and Rizwan know this because they've seen in the past. So in the future, when we'll have experienced seniors who are asked to adapt their game, they'll just be complacent. They'll just sit back saying that no, but Babar and Rizwan didn't change their game, but they still got back into the team. Same thing will happen to me. Same thing happened to all the predecessors before me, and most often with the bat, because that's Pakistan's weaker suit. Like, you have to remember it's much bigger than this. If you have set a goal for Babar and Rizwan to meet, which is improve your strike rate, improve your 6 hitting bill, whatever, and strike rotation, whatever it is, then you need to stick to that. Otherwise, you
Yeah.
have no credibility, right?
Yeah.
As difficult as it may be at this point in time, really, I know, trust me. I mean, I was really craving a Babar Azam cover drive in the middle, or somebody to at least time the ball or make batting look easy for even for the six balls that he'd play before getting out, but whatever. Uh, or Rizwan with at least one six that he may hit. I was missing all of that, but I can tell you that it will damage Pakistan cricket irreparably if you go down that.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to
I mean,
stick to
at the end of the day, you can't be worse than getting knocked out, losing to the USA and
USA.
not chasing 120, right? So, I mean, it's not like those guys were doing anything exceptional anyway, right? So, look, I think the last three tournaments that they've been part of, I guess a couple of them have been ODIs, but have been probably Pakistan's worst campaigns anyway. So, look, I don't think it's a typical, those who are calling for them to be considered again. It's the age old issue with Pakistan cricket that you're always the best player when you're not in the team, right? So,
Exactly.
um,
You said it so well.
so exactly.
But
So I think that's kind of the issue. Um,
in
I
cricket,
guess we
moving to the.
can.
I'm sorry, go on. Go
Yeah,
on.
I think the same thing. We're just going to move on to the bowling. Pakistan's bowling, India's batting. I mean, I mentioned it just looked like they were batting on a different pitch. The intent was there from ball one. Abhishek Sharma, his first ball he's ever facing in the India-Pakistan game. And again, we go back to your point around this is the pressure of playing in the IPL. He opens with Travis Head week in, week out for the best part of 3 months in high pressure games, in the IPL. Probably the most lethal opening pair in that tournament. And it showed fearless, first two balls, 4-6 against Shaheen Afridi as a much faded version of Shaheen Afridi as it is. But it just shows, and again, it was sensible intent, walking down and hitting him for straight down the ground first ball,
Yeah, the
not
sensible
hoiking
thing.
him,
No,
exactly.
they plan this. They know that Shine Feeder will always bowl full and straight, right? We know it,
Yeah.
and they definitely know it, right? So
Yeah.
there's only one plan with Shaheen, right, with the new ball. So that's all you've got to do. Now, negate the swing. And it's also quite a good defensive measure because you're negating any movement. Now, I think for those who watched our preview, we made it very clear that our preference was to have Haris Rauf in the attack, right? And look, I know Sharjah pitches are different, but this is Dubai, okay? And you have to at some point play to your strengths, right? I know India won't, but India have three world class spinners, right? Pakistan, I know Abrar, Sufyan, they all have potential. Nawaz with his crazy hat tricks against, again, you have to accept weaker opposition. I get all that. But at some point, you need to ask yourself, Fahim Ashraf, are you really picking on number eight on the basis of his batting and not his bowling? Because if I think about, if I'm India, right, and India, let's be honest, are superb players of spin. I think they have the highest strike rate against spin of all international teams, I think. So what does that tell you? That tells you I have to play to my strengths. What do I have that India may not have as much of? And that's raw pace, right? Although it doesn't mean very much when your Haris Rauf and you spray it everywhere, but still, right? And Haris Rauf and India have in the past, especially like take out Virat Kohli now, take out Rohit Sharma, but Sky has struggled against Haris Rauf in a couple of games, right? There has been a history. The IPL, those who play in the IPL, yes, I know they play Mitch Stark and all this, but pace, like they haven't played Haris Rauf before, and Haris Rauf, does he may go for runs, but he can make things happen. He can bring about quick fire wickets, and yes, other teams may not do that, but you have to just play to your strengths, right? Your depth in fast bowling is just, I mean, they may not be the best quality, and I accept that, but I don't think you have such a good spin trio that you keep a front line 140 plus wicket taking bowler for all his weaknesses and vices out of the attack. That's my perspective. I know hindsight's a wonderful thing, but our preview, we also said that, right? Now, your
Yeah.
question is who do you drop? Is it Sufyan or Brar? It doesn't really matter. I would have probably picked Sufyan only because he brings the different angle, the mystery factor because they've played Abrar many times. And also Abrar is actually quite similar to Sam Ayub, right? So if you've got Sam Ayub, then you might want to just bring someone a bit different in Sufyan. But
Yeah.
regardless, look at it on paper. Even like if you put side by side, our teams were actually quite well matched when it came to roles. But then you probably pick 11-0 of Indian players if you had a line by line, no question about it. So
Yeah, I mean, I picked Sufyan because he can actually hit Bumrah for four, isn't it?
which
It
is the
was a free
sorry
hit, but
state of our
whatever.
cricket, right? And Sam Ayub is taking all the wickets, so just turn everything around. Sam Ayub is
I mean,
taking the
Sam Ayub
wickets.
is like the gully cricket lottery boy. He opens the batting, opens the bowling.
He does, yeah, exactly. He does everything, and he goes home and he tells his mom and dad, yeah, I did everything. And just give him the captaincy, and that he'll be a full gully cricketer, right?
Of
Captain.
course, of course.
And,
That's just,
but it's a very fair point you made, right? Like, just change everything around, right? Sam Ayub
yeah,
comes in at number 8. Shine Afidi opens the batting, like, but it's all going awry, right? Salman
yeah. I mean,
Agha not trusting himself with the ball.
yeah, yeah. I mean, that's. I guess when you have like what 5, 6 spinners
Yeah,
potentially, then you
true.
probably don't need him. But I think yeah, if you play Haris Rauf, then you probably would. I mean, Fahim Ashraf, as it turned out, didn't even bowl, right? So didn't really. I don't really
Which I
understand
knew
what.
would happen after you only
So
conceded
what's the
120.
point?
Only scored 120.
So what's the point then? You might as well not play him then, right? Or you bat him up the order, maybe drop a batter. I don't know. That would probably mean, yeah, it's well, you can't drop
Well,
Salman.
I don't
Yeah,
think you
so
can
you
do
have
that, right?
to,
Because although Fahim's
yeah,
not been too bad, it's just that I just feel like it's silly to go with
yeah,
7 bowlers in a 20-over game, right? Like it's silly.
yeah,
So,
exactly, yeah, and 5 spinners. So that yeah, it doesn't really make any
and the
sense to be honest.
frustration of Mohammad Nawaz continues, right? I mean,
Never
he was
performed well.
clueless against that Kuldeep Yadav delivery. I mean, people will debate all over. I think he has lots of backers around him in Pakistan cricket, like Shadab or all these players who say that he's actually really good. We've always rated him more with the bat than the ball. And it's just a shame. He had that one innings against India in the Asia Cup. And remember, man, that was a different India. That was an India where
Yeah,
Kuldeep Yadav hadn't yet found his form. He was out of the
yeah,
team, right? You had Ashwin, but Ashwin didn't play that game. Ashwin played in the T20 World Cup after. In that team,
yeah.
in that game, it was
Use it,
Bishnoi.
Chahal.
No, it was Chahal and
Yeah,
Bishnoi. It was two. They
yeah,
were two leggies, Chahal and Bishnoi. Chahal, who, let's be honest, now is no way gonna come back. Poor guy.
yeah,
But like he's a good bowler, but nowhere near as good
yeah.
as these
He'll
others.
walk into Pakistan's team, but
He'd walk into Pakistan team, and then even the other one, yeah, Bishnoi was the other one they tried, if you remember.
yeah,
Was
yeah,
it?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it was.
It was. I think
Who
it was
who
him.
was the one that Ashdeep Singh dropped? That catch dropped.
Asif Ali. Was it
Yeah,
Asif Ali? I
was
think it
it
was. Yeah.
Bishnoi or was it Chahal? I
Ah,
think it was
I
Bishnoi.
think it was Chad. I don't remember, but it was of Asif Ali, right? Yeah, that was the game.
But Ashdeep Singh
Uh,
wasn't playing in this game. Obviously not in the
yeah, he was.
team.
Yeah, no, he's in the squad. He was there. So yeah, I mean that's the depths of. I mean, yeah, we can go.
What you can go to
Who's
town on
who?
this, right? Like,
Yeah, who's not in India's team? I mean, look at the batting like Shear Sayer, Jaiswal, whatever. So he can go on and on about who's not playing it for India. But
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 there you
from
go.
Pakistan's point of view, yeah, look, I mean, they've got what the weird thing is obviously this is most it's very likely that this match will happen again in a few days' time. But the only thing you can hope for, if not the result, is at least a change in performance or intent.
Oh, I was
And
gonna say rain, but never mind. Not that it rains in the UAE, but no. I mean, yeah. Look, I mean, the result will probably stay the same. Just if Pakistan should have just probably learned something. I just felt like you made such a big hue and cry about having intent, and then they just didn't play. Honestly, I just think they got stage fright. I just think they got bogged down. I'm
yeah,
not saying that quality would have been like at par with India's if they hadn't, but I think there was a bit of like nerves that came into it, and especially when you were 2 wickets down so early, Fakhar, then working out. It's just everything. Like at no point, like when you're 80 for 7, you look back at 50 for 3 and be like, oh, I wish I was 50 for 3. I would have taken that any day. But when you're 50 for 3, the way we were playing, it was like, oh my god, it
yeah,
felt like an 80 for 7. You know what I mean? So you almost
yeah,
it's always going to go downhill. You just have that
yeah,
ink, and then when you look back, like actually that wasn't that bad. If Salman Agha actually applied himself a little. Like he thought it was now or never and it's all over, but
Yeah.
just like we all did at the time. But if he applied himself a little, 50 for three wasn't a bad place to be, right? You could have got a much better score if you just stuck around. It's just that's the mentality aspect of it, and I think Pakistan need a lot of work there. But anyways, now we've talked about it. We're gonna touch on a rather controversial part of the game, in my view, an unnecessary part of the game. But I think it wouldn't be a fair review of the cricket game without reviewing the lack of handshake. So now look, I mean, I'm fully cognizant of the fact that a lot of our viewership, is split across India and Pakistan. And look, we and gully to gully, we have a policy of no politics. Okay, in our streaming, so we're
Actually,
not going
someone
to
who's
get
actually if someone's made their way through this deep into our video, then I'm sure they're not going to judge us for our opinions here.
exactly that. That's why we left it till the end. But we're gonna talk about politics, right? But we're just gonna talk about sport itself. Look, it was disappointing to hear that there wasn't a handshake at the toss. Um, I will say, on balance, like I will give us. I think that India, if India had decided not to shake hands, which I think was unfortunate and not the right thing to do, but if they decided that, I think they went about it in the right way in that they told the match referee. They told the match referee so that it won't end up being an embarrassment that Saman Aga puts out his hand and doesn't get reciprocated, and we have an awkward situation. So there was a clear communication before, which is fine, fair enough. But where was that clear communication at the end of the game, right? So I think India had always planned that we're not going to tell anyone, but at the end of the game, we're just going to walk right back, and we're going to hope that Pakistan follow us, and it will look to everybody as a snub, right? That's what gets to me. Yes, not shaking hands. I get that. Right? I'm sorry, no, I don't get that, but and it's very unfortunate. And I believe politics and sports should be as apart as possible. But that isn't what irks me so much. What actually irks me the most is that I felt by telling the match referee about the toss, but not the end result and what was going to happen after the game, it felt as if India were, in a way, wanting Pakistan to be embarrassed. And that's a fine line between a positive reason for it, like a positive reason. If you really want to believe in the whole solidarity and all that, sure, it's the wrong thing to do, but sure. But if you're doing it to spite someone, if you're doing it to bring down and embarrass, that I take issue with. If you are telling the referee about the toss, why not tell him about, oh, and by the way, at the end of the game also, we're not going to shake hands. Go tell them, unko bata dena. They could have just said that, right? That's what gets to me. That's why I feel intentions are not sincere. It's not about, oh, my nation is more important and all that. It's about, if it is about that, it's just about standing with the victims. If it was about that, then you could have just been a little better at handling it, right? It's not about that. Let's be honest. It is, I feel, about embarrassing another nation on center stage. And let's be honest. Like, look, you and I both don't know what happened, but those 11 cricketers on the cricketing field are not the reason, right? They are professional cricketers like yourself, right? You can fight as hard as you want when during the game itself, but outside the game, there is a camaraderie when it comes to professional athletes, and you can't, in my view, disrespect that. It's not like you're playing against the known, perpetrators or whatever, right? So let's just call a spade, and we could do the same thing and we'd have our reasons for doing it too. But I applaud that Pakistan did not go down that route. If Pakistan had, I guarantee I would have sat here and I would have criticized that move.
Yeah, look, I mean, there's not much more I can add to that. Yeah, it was sad and disappointing. I mean, it was a lot of talk before the match about boycotts and things like that, and I'll give the broader picture without again bringing the fact that I was at the game. Um, and people might see on in the news and the media, you might see like, oh, it was an empty ground, but it wasn't. It was 85% full, to be honest. Yes, there were a couple of patches, but it was really, really hot as well. So you could see like the top of the stand slightly empty, but it was pretty packed. And again, as in all India Pakistan games, it was 85-90% India. Um, so people showed up to watch the game. The Indian team showed up to play the game. A couple of days ago, the captain was shaking hands with the interior minister of Pakistan, and apparently there was a handshake with Salman earlier as
which
well
I
in
saw.
the
I
press
saw it.
conference.
Yeah.
So yeah, exactly right. So maybe this was decided after the backlash of those videos being leaked and reactions to that, or some sort of look. I mean, whatever their reasons were fine. They did what they did. Um, but the fact that 2 days ago there was something different happening, and the fact that they actually showed up to play the game, and it does question, what the actual if motive was. But
And I
also, I guess in a way,
guarantee, if India were not that much better than Pakistan, and if it were the other way around, and Pakistan were like dominant and India weren't very good, India would have boycotted. Let's be honest. India played because they knew they had a chance of winning. They want to win the Asia Cup. So
yeah.
either if you want
And
to go,
so,
you go
and
all the
they
way.
wanted to make that statement, right? What Surya Kumar said in his press conference or whatever, the post-match presentation, the whole spiel that he gave. Obviously, that was very scripted, whatever he said. So I'm sure they wanted to draw that point, which is fine. Whatever they wanted to do what they wanted to do. They wanted to politicize things and fine. I think was you mentioned off the record. There was a football match last year, last World Cup, USA versus Iran, and even them, they went through
Exactly.
the formalities of going through the process and
Yeah,
respecting
and
each
look,
other,
let's be honest.
on
Like
the field.
we have seen, like throughout sport, like countries at war, on the verge of war, at the point of the game being held, playing against one another. Right? I mean, this. I mean, you've seen this throughout, right? The U.S. Iran example I was giving off air is a good one, but you know, right? Even in those darkest of times, there is a certain level of respect you pay to the professionalism of the sport that you're representing. And there is no substitution to that. Because, as I always believe, and like obviously we have our own all opinions, we have our opinions, our perspectives, but there are always two sides to every story, right? And you respect those on the other side for taking a different view, even though you don't agree with it, right? They take a different view, we take a different view, but you respect the fact that there may be nuances, as always in real life and in the nuanced world of politics. But that's the key point here, right? And players see through that, like they see beyond that. They say, you know what? Yes, these players, we're war them. They have a different view, but we're all good people. We are all family people, right? We care for our families, we care for our children, we care for our parents, whatever, our spouse, whatever. Right? We're all human beings, and we're all motivated by the same things. Right? Let's not make monsters out of the enemy, right? Let's not dehumanize them. That's what sportsmen and sports people, rather, I should say, try to do, right? Because they've been friends at other points in time when their countries have not been at war. Same with India, Pakistan. Literally a year ago, they were like shaking hands, and we used to be like, "Oh my God, they're just too friendly now." Right? Was it 2 years ago? And then they're like hugging,
Yeah.
exchanging, taking their shirts off, exchanging jerseys after Pakistan were trounced. Right? And you're like, what's the camaraderie? I mean, it's a bit too much now. It's a bit too much, and then now it's gone the other way, which goes to show that actually, right, there are people. I mean, there was this one thing that kept coming where there was an Indian and Pakistani, and Pakistani was so upset at the second wicket down, and the Indian guy was hugging him, and that sums it up for you, right? Like you should always search for things that bring people together, because ultimately we don't want.
And the irony is right. I mean, you look at the rest of the tournament, right? You've got Hong Kong, UAE, Oman, who have got mixes of five Indians, six
Thank
Pakistanis,
you.
five six Indians, five Pakistanis, and there's no handshake issues there, right?
And no handshake issues, hugging, all that, because ultimately we're all people, right? We're all people. In fact,
But there's a video of
Indians and
Shubman Gill, like I think there's obviously Hong Kong players with Pakistani origin, and they're like all crowded around Shubman Gill, and he's giving them batting tips and stuff from like 2-3 days ago,
and I'm sure
right?
that yeah, and the Pakistanis in that too. But that's what I mean, right? Like
And
they're
no, they're speaking in like Urdu Hindi, right? So
yeah.
literally, it's
So I mean, and you
um,
do accept, right, that there is we're not just human beings, but we also have a very close connection because of our shared history and heritage, right?
Yeah.
So, and shared culture, right? We speak almost same languages, the same culture, everything, right? So I don't know. I just felt like that was a move that was influenced by politicians rather than the sports people. I don't, and to be honest, I don't really put the sports team, the cricket team, at fault here because I just don't think they had a say in this. They, you know, they
Yeah.
I don't think they had a choice, right? It came. They even said it. It was in agreement with the government. It wasn't in agreement with the government. The government told you what to do, and you did it, right? So
Yeah.
let's be candid here. So I yeah, like the shared culture.
Yeah.
Hopefully, the shared love for cricket culture, everything that brings us together will shine through as it so often does, right? But
Yeah. All we can hope for is at least it'll be less awkward for the next game on Sunday. They just know they know what's going to happen or what's not going to happen,
yeah,
and they can
well,
just do
if there
their
is
own
another
thing.
game, Pakistan are threatening to boycott the match against the UAE. I can tell you, we will play. We will take the field, but let's see. Let's see what transpires. But I guess there you go. I don't think there'll be any changes to Pakistan's 11 against at least against the team that plays the UAE. Although I hope there'll be a change to the team that plays against India. Personally, if you ask me, I would play. If you know you're going to play Haris Rauf next time against India, I would play him against the UAE to give him a go before. But let's see. Let's see. All right.
All right.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.